What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord, Dr. Professor, Dark Joker, with another edition of Where, Pick, and Dare, where I pick games for the various games that are occurring tomorrow. Whether it's football, baseball, basketball, basically whatever games I want to pick, I will pick them. With all that being said, on with the video. MLB. Chicago Cubs versus Milwaukee Brewers, Game 1. So it's the first game of the National League Division Series round. So, the Cubs have a 39.3% chance to win. The Brewers have a 60.7% chance to win. This is at Milwaukee for pitchers. Uh, Boyd has a ERA of 3.21, WHIP of 1.09. And Peralta for the Brewers has an ERA of 2.7, WHIP of 1.08. So, good pitcher for both teams. Not really seeing the difference here. So I think home field advantage would be a big thing here. So I think the Brewers will beat the Cubs and go up 1-0 in the series. New York Yankees versus Toronto Blue Jays, Game 1. So this is first game of a American League Division Series. So the Yankees have a 52% chance to win, and the Blue Jays have a 48% chance to win. This is at Toronto. For pitchers, Gill for the Yankees has an ERA of 3.32 and a WHIP of 1.4. And Gaussman for the Blue Jays has an ERA of 3.59, WHIP of 1.06. Now, Gaussman has pitched in 193 innings this year, while Gill has only pitched in 57. So let's look at Gill's career. So for his career, he has an ERA of 3.5 and a WHIP of 1.27. So with those numbers, it's a good pitcher, but teams not really seeing the difference here. So I think home field advantage is the big thing here. So I think the Blue Jays will beat the Yankees to go up 1-0 in the series. Los Angeles Dodgers versus Philadelphia Phillies, Game 1. So this is first game of another National League Division Series. The Dodgers have a 40.1% chance to win. The Phillies have a 59.9% chance to win. This is at Philadelphia. For pitchers, Otani for the Dodgers has an ERA of 2.87, a WHIP of 1.04. And Sanchez for the Phillies has an ERA of 2.5 and a WHIP of 1.06. So Sanchez has pitched 202 innings this year, while Otani has pitched in 47. So it's like Otani's career. So for his career, Otani has an ERA of 3 and a WHIP of 1.08. So, with those numbers, it's good pitching for both teams. Not really significant difference here. So I think home field advantage is a big thing here. So I think the Phillies will beat the Dodgers to go up 1-0 in the series. For Tigers versus Seattle Mariners, Game 1. So this is first game of the American League Division Series. The Tigers have a 43.2% chance to win. The Mariners have a 56.8% chance to win. This is at Seattle. For pitchers, Melton for the Tigers has an ERA of 2.76 and a WHIP of 1.01. And Kirby for the Mariners has an ERA of 4.21 and a WHIP of 1.19. Now, Kirby has pitched 126 innings this year, while Melton has only pitched in 4, 5, and 2/3. So let's look at his career, and that's it for his career. So with good pitching from Melton, and with not really good pitching from Kirby, for this year, I would say the Tigers have the pitching advantage. So despite the home field advantage that the Mariners have, I think with the pitching advantage, I think the Tigers will beat the Mariners tomorrow to go up 1-0 in the series. College football. Iowa State Cyclones versus Cincinnati Bearcats. Iowa State has a 51.5% chance to win, and Cincinnati is a 48.5% chance to win. This is at Cincinnati. So Iowa State is 14 nation, 5-0 record. Cincinnati's unranked 3-1 record. The spread is, you know, pretty low. Surprisingly, one and a half, only 1.5 in favor of Iowa State. I would have thought they'd been favored by more than that. I mean, I don't think too highly of Cincinnati, but since the spread is so low, I'm making a pick for this one. But yeah, so even though it's at Cincinnati, this could be as far as this could be a game. So with quarterbacks, you have Becht for Iowa State, 79-120, 1103 yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Sorsby for Cincinnati, 74-107, 1043 yards, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. So it could be interesting, but I think with despite the home field advantage that Cincinnati has, I think with how good Iowa State is and with kind of my relatively low opinion of Cincinnati, I think Iowa State will beat Cincinnati tomorrow. Illinois fighting Illini versus Purdue Boilermakers. So Illinois is a 74.7% chance to win, and Purdue has a 25.3% chance to win. This is at Purdue. So Illinois is 22 in the nation, 4-1 record. Purdue is unranked with a 2-2 record. So the spread of this is only 8.5. I would thought it would have been a little higher than that. But quarterbacks, you have Altmaier for Illinois, 90-126, 1183 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Brown for Purdue, 77-122, 1036 yards, 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So with a significantly better quarterback as far as touchdowns and interceptions go, despite the home field advantage that Purdue has, I think with the better quarterback situation, and all that, I think, and basically how it's better, I think Illinois is in Purdue. I think Illinois will beat Purdue. Texas Longhorns versus Florida Gators. Texas has a 75.8% chance to win. Florida has a 24.2% chance to win. This is at Florida, so Texas is 9 in the nation, 3-1 record. Florida is unranked, 1-3 record. Yeah, the fact that Florida's the home team is the only reason the spread's only 5.5 in favor of Texas. Because truly, you would because the Swamp is a tough place to play. That is well known that the Swamp is one of the toughest stadiums to play in. So I think that will play a role. With quarterbacks, you have Arch Manning for Texas, 6'5", 106, 880 yards, 9 touchdowns, 3 receptions. Lagway for Florida, 83, 123, 690 yards, 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So yeah, Lagway's not a good quarterback. He's not good. He received a lot of preseason type. He's definitely not lived up to it. I mean, he already has more passing stats than Anthony Richardson. He's probably a better passer than Richardson. Yeah, there's a lot of things about Richardson with regards to how he got drafted. That was one of the most retarded things I see a team do. And then Arch Manning, of course, he hasn't lived up to the hype. But I think he's significantly better than Lagway. So despite this being at Florida, while the home field advantage will help some, I think with just how much better Texas is, with the roster, I think Texas will beat Florida. Vanderbilt Commodores versus Alabama Crimson Tide. Vanderbilt has a 25.7% chance to win. Alabama has a 74.3% chance to win. This is at Alabama. So, college game days going to this game, and even though it's at Alabama, they chose a Vanderbilt fan to be the guest picker. Which, I have no problem with the Vanderbilt fan being chosen the guest picker, but the fact that they didn't choose a Bama fan, along with that to be a guest picker. Like Theo Vaughn is a Vandy fan, and look, if they had, let's say, if they say, hey, we're gonna choose a guest picker for each team, one for the away team, one for the home team, that would have been fine. And I personally don't have an issue with that. Like, it's like, hey, you at least gotta have someone for the home team. Like, if you're not gonna do neutral, but if it was like, hey, we're gonna have a how we're gonna handle is we're gonna have a guest picker for the away team, one for the home team. Honestly, that seems like a good system. One prevents the one scenarios that Kirk Herbstreit gets worried about, where you have like the whole row is in favor of one team. Like Kirk Herbstreit notoriously hates seeing that happen, especially when the team that's not picked wins, because he knows they'll get roasted. Because I've seen bring him up, he's like, yeah, I see all the. Because I've seen Herbstreit pick like mention that a lot, which is why I'm pretty sure sometimes he picks the other team just to keep that from happening. Anyway, so yeah, but they didn't pick a Alabama person to be a guest picker. Look, if they want Theo Vaughn as a guest picker, I'm fine with that. I have no problem with them picking a Rain fan, but I think they should have found a Alabama one to be a co guest picker. So they just have two guest pickers. Boom, that fixes so many problems. Anyway, so quarterbacks, you have Diego Pavia for Vanderbilt, 9'4", 126, 1211 yards, 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Ty Simpson for Alabama, 1138 yards, AAA of 127, 11 touchdowns. So this could be some. You would think this could be an interesting game, but so Vanderbilt is 16 in the nation, 5-0 record. Alabama's 10 in the nation, 3-1 record. Of course, that one loss being at Florida State. They had that big win, unfortunately, against Georgia. Now, there's a lot of retarded decisions Kirby Smart made in that. Anyway, but okay, so basically, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt last year. That's well known. It was at Vanderbilt. This is at Tuscaloosa this year. And I'll say Saban would not have made the mistake of losing to Vanderbilt last year. I would say Nick Saban would not have made that mistake. And if he did this year, let's be real, dang, Alabama would not be losing to Vanderbilt if Saban was there. Like now, this is at Tuscaloosa, and home field advantage is going to be a very big deal in college football games, for the foreseeable future, with the amount of parity compared to like pre NIL. So with this being at Tuscaloosa and with Alabama, I think just having a better roster than Vanderbilt, I think Alabama's gonna beat Vanderbilt. Like I don't think it's gonna be very close. Virginia Cavaliers versus Louisville Cardinals. Virginia is a 43.9% chance to win, and Louisville is a 56.1% chance to win. This is at Louisville, so Virginia is 24 in the nation, 4-1 record. Louisville is unranked, 4-0 record. So Virginia being one of the lower ranked teams, like Notre Dame, I don't think they're really that good. You know, even though even though they're ranked. So quarterbacks, you have Morris for Virginia, 111 of 155, 1279 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Moss for Louisville, 86 of 131, 1029 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So this could be close. I don't think it's going to be the most high scoring. Spread is a 6.5 in favor of Louisville. Largely because it's at Louisville. And due to the home field advantage and due to my basically low opinion of Virginia, I think Louisville will beat Virginia. Miami Hurricanes versus Florida State Seminoles. Miami has a 65.3% chance to win, and Florida State has a 34.7% chance to win. This is at Florida State. Yeah, this could be a really good in-state rivalry game. Like this could be like the best game of the weekend. Of course, with quarterbacks, you have Carson Beck from Miami, 82 of 112, 972 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Castanelas for Florida State, 45 of 70, 848 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 receptions. So, like, Beck obviously has been the Heisman conversation. Castellanos, not really in it anymore. I mean, well, the Heisman race is a freaking crapshoot right now. Anyway, but this could be a really good game. With it being, even though Miami technically does have like the better roster, I think home field advantage will matter. So with it being at Florida State, I think Florida State's gonna beat Miami tomorrow. Mississippi State Bulldogs versus Texas A&M Aggies. Mississippi State is a 21.2% chance to win. Texas A&M has a 78.8% chance to win. This is at A&M. So, yeah, I mean, the spread for this is 16 and a half. I'm only making a pick for it because I think the game will be a lot closer than people think. So, with quarterbacks, you have Blake Shapen for Mississippi State, 85 at 129, 1064 yards, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Marcel Reed for A&M, 73 at 121, 1076 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So yeah, I mean, basically you have two teams that wear maroon a lot going against each other. So yeah. So I mean, if this was at Starkville, I would pick Mississippi State. Obviously, Mississippi State had that close loss to Tennessee last week. You know, basically the Cowbells play big effect against Tennessee. Yeah, this is in Starkville, so Cowbells aren't gonna play that kind of role. Honestly, some people will try to sneak them in, like basically if you have something that's a tradition, someone's gonna try to sneak it into the opposing team's stadium, you know, right or wrong. And the Cowbells will be some of them will probably be stuck into A, but it ain't gonna be enough to matter. It's not gonna be enough to matter. And with this being at A&M, I think the I think the Aggies will beat the Bulldogs. And that's it for picks. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my picks. Do you agree with them? Do you not? If you have different picks, you can put them in the comments. But other than that, please like, subscribe, and all that. Thank you for listening, and look forward to the next video.